I got a late start on this today. Normally I've been filming my Bookish Week videos on Fridays, but this is Saturday morning, almost lunchtime, and it's already raining here in New Hampshire, and normally that would be a perfect reading day of an excuse to go nowhere, but I'd rather not be in the path of a hurricane. Hey Booktube, it's Kim at middle of the book march. It's my Bookish Week for Saturday, August 21st. Oh, I was on a roll there for a couple of weeks. I knew the date. This week was a much lighter week than the few previous weeks, so it was quite a bit more relaxing, and I think I had a little bit more reading fun. I didn't DNF so many books, and I wasn't so frustrated. I'm just a little frustrated this week, but you'll see. Before I tell you what I finished, I wanted to kind of fill you in on a pretty good deal. This is an audiobook deal. And in case you're unaware, there's an audiobook service out there called Chirp. ChirpBooks.com, and I'll put the link down below. This is an audiobook site where you buy audiobooks. It's not a subscription service. You don't buy credits. You actually just buy the books that look good to you. And they have really good Chirp deals. And that's where I found all of my audiobooks that I have in my Chirp library. But the one I wanted to show you today is Mary Lawson's A Town Called Solace. And this is in the running on the long list for the 2021 Booker Prize. It's on Chirp today for $3.99. I'm looking at it's pouring now. I'm looking at the website, and I thought I had all of the information, but let me just keep looking at the pretty book pictures, and I will get the information that I should have had all ready to go. I just purchased the book today, this morning, and A Town Called Solace by Mary Lawson. It's $3.99, and as of 11:30 on Saturday the 21st, there are 15 hours left to go to get this deal. So if you're interested in listening to that Booker Longlisted book on audio, take a look at chirpbooks.com. I am not sponsored. I receive no benefit from referring this to you. It's just, I thought it was a great deal, something I actually wanted to read anyway. And I just watched Scott's video from Gunpowder Fiction and Plot. He did a video analyzing Scribd, which I also do subscribe to. So the majority of the time, the audiobooks I listen to in the car are from my Scribd subscription. And I just started listening to an audiobook a couple of days ago, and a day later, I started listening to it on like Wednesday, and on Thursday, I couldn't open it. And I couldn't understand why. It didn't occur to me. So I actually uninstalled Scribd from my phone and reinstalled it thinking it was a glitch or it was locked up. The book became unavailable. It's like I just started listening to it. And I knew that Scribd did that, but I was not expecting that the book I had just started listening to was going to be pulled. So that was disappointing. So with Chirp, you buy the books. Once you get it, it's yours. And it doesn't get taken away. It doesn't get inactivated. You don't have to keep wondering, what happened to my book? Yeah. So that's that. Go check out Chirp, and like I said, A Town Called Solace is on a deal for $3.99 for the next 15 hours. And by the time this video is up, I'm going to try to have it up about an hour after I film it. So you'll probably have like 12 or 13 hours to go and buy it at that price. That's it for my plug. I finished 2 things last week. One was a novel and one was an essay. And coincidentally, Heidi from My Reading Life also read this essay, and I will link her video down below as well. And honestly, watch her video because the vlog footage in her videos is just beautiful. Go and watch her video and see what she had to say about Writing Into the Wound by Roxane Gay. And this is Understanding Trauma, Truth, and Language. This was a Scribd essay, so I did get to complete this before they ripped it out, but this was only about an hour long. In print, I think it would have been around 50 to 54 pages. But this is Roxane Gay's essay on writing about trauma, and she's also a writing professor, and she taught a course on writing about trauma. It's an excellent essay, I thought. She talks a lot about the content of her book Hunger, which was her memoir that came out a few years back. And she discusses her childhood trauma and how that led into her body weight and her body image. She talks a lot about current culture. She talks about her experiences on press tours for the book Hunger, her experiences with interviewers and the media, which was quite negative at times. She also has a little bit in there about our 2 years of COVID, some political and pop cultural references, but it's a very good essay. She talks about what the craft is and the technique is for writing about trauma. Now, coincidentally, she was also quoted discussing the book My Dark Vanessa, which I will not get into. That's a BookTube prize book. And there was not controversy, I don't know if you'd call it that, but the author of My Dark Vanessa, Kate Elizabeth Russell, was pressured to admit whether or not that book was autobiographical or not. And her stance has always been, if it is or is not, it's up to me or the author to reveal their past, and if there's trauma in their past. And I 100% agree with that. And Roxane Gay came out with a comment about Russell's willingness or unwillingness to discuss her previous trauma. She later recanted that statement and actually apologized for that, realizing that it's up to the individual to discuss the trauma in their background, whether it's childhood or adult or whatever incidents or amount of time something horrifying happened to them. So I thought that was really interesting, and bravo to Roxane Gay for doing that. The other book I finished is a novel. It's called The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa, and the translator is Stephen Snyder. I really enjoyed this book, and I loved The Housekeeper and the Professor by Yoko Ogawa, also translated by Stephen Snyder. And I read this book in honor of Women in Translation Month. I really enjoyed it. I really liked it. Yoko Ogawa's writing is subdued and lyrical. I really think it's beautiful, and it's not a super heavy, action-packed, plot-driven book. But these are the types of books that I like the most. I love the characters, I like the writing style, I like the pace of this book. And the tone is quiet, and it is suspenseful. It's basically set in, whether it's a dystopian or near-future society, where there is a police force called the Memory Police. And little by little, things in this society are basically disappeared. They're purposely disappeared by the Memory Police. We don't ever really know how the Memory Police came into existence. They've always been there. And little by little, different objects start disappearing. It's birds, it's roses, it's books, all these hats, all these things start disappearing, and the people forget that these things ever existed. The Memory Police exist to remove and incarcerate people who keep their memories. So there are people that are in hiding because they don't want to be arrested by the Memory Police. And the main character is a novelist who forgets when things disappeared. So she's not really suspected of having any memories of the disappeared objects. The one thing I did not enjoy in this book is there's a book within a book. She's a novelist, and she puts in inserts of the novel that this main character is writing. And I don't typically like that technique. So I wasn't, the novel within the novel was also interesting, but I don't usually get into that. To me, it tends to interrupt my reading, and the book within the book is never as good as the book. But I really did like The Memory Police. On Goodreads, I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was a very good book. It was an excellent translation. Stephen Snyder, I think, knows how to translate Ogawa's language and does it very well. I really liked the book. So, those are the only two things I finished last week. I was very close to finishing another one, but I haven't yet. I will finish that today. And that one is The Illumination of Ursula Flight. The Illumination of Ursula Flight by Anna Marie Crowhurst. I'm really enjoying this one, and this is a book that was recommended on Britta Bowler's channel. She recommended this one, and I had this in my Britta Bowler birthday video, and she commented, start with Ursula Flight if you're going to read any of the books that I had in that video. So I did, and I'm really loving it. I'm about 100 pages from the end. I'll finish this up today, and we'll wrap it up in my next week's video. And again, this is also one of the most gorgeous books that I own. It's just beautiful, and because it's so beautiful, I take the cover off of the hardback in order to read it. I am also in the midst of a buddy read with Freddie from Sluggish Reader, and we are reading Birdsong by Sebastian Fox. This is a World War I novel set in England and France. We've been talking back and forth, and I think Freddie and I are definitely on the same page, no pun intended, with this book. These are all tabs of passages that I kind of am angry about, because this particular author tends to write women in very misogynistic terms. And these are the tabs for the passages that I found with really problematic description and or language. Again, this is a war novel, so from World War I, so there's not a lot of main female characters or in-depth female description or characterization. And so far, the description, I think I'm about a third of the way through the novel, the description is based solely on sex or sexuality. So I'm struggling picking this one back up and keeping my interest going. So I will continue to discuss this with Freddie, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. And the other book I am reading is a historical romance. I tend to really like historical romances set in Scotland, and and I've only read one chapter of this one. This was a Kindle book that I've had on my Kindle for quite a while, and it's The Widow and the Highlander by Martha Keyes. Again, I've only read one chapter. I really am liking it. I really liked the first chapter, and I hope that the writing continues the same way. I really enjoy the writing. So far, I'm liking the characters and the story. And this is not women's fiction. It is clearly a romance. So there's a difference in that type of genre. Romance is for me, I really like reading romance for something fun and that I know that's going to have a payoff. There is going to be a happily ever after in almost every single romance I've ever picked up. And this, unfortunately, the one similarity this has with several of the women's fiction books I just read is there's a dead husband in chapter 1. Hence the title, The Widow and the Highlander. It's set in the Scottish Highlands, and the widow has to figure out how to deal with this estate that her father negotiated that she would inherit after her husband died. And that doesn't usually happen because women don't usually inherit. So she has a dead husband and a newly inherited estate that she doesn't really know what to do with. And all of a sudden there's these other men coming out of the woodwork. And apparently there will be a Highlander. So far so good. I actually really enjoy the writing on this one. And I think this will be a fun one. Yeah, that's it for me for now. I think I made a comment that it started pouring. It's slowing down a little bit. So we are definitely keeping an eye on Tropical Storm Henri. I think that's the name of it. I think we're going to get some gas for our generator, hope that our house doesn't blow away. We're trying to refinance, so if it blew away, that would not be effective. So, okay, that's it for me for today. Write a comment down below about any of the books I showed you or talked about. Go take a look at chirpbooks.com if you're interested. Go and watch any of the other Booktubers videos that I mentioned. The links will be down below. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.